Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Rakshamam Krishna 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 Pahimam Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshamam Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahimam. This is actually a song which is sung by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as he was returning from Gaya in his youth. In his young age, his father passed away, Jagannath Mishra, and he went to perform his final rites. And then he went to Gaya there to perform the final rites for his father, and then on his return, he got initiated. And then soon after he was initiated, he just became ecstatic. He just became overwhelmed with love for Krishna, and he was singing this song. So a little bit of Chaitanya Leela to start. So now on to Krishna Leela, and I'd like to ask for some devotees to volunteer for reading. As always, off the mark we have Jai Prakash Prabhu, who's always very enthusiastic to participate. If you could put a number down, it'd be appreciated for reading. It'd be nice if everyone could read a little bit. Jai Prakash Prabhu, hand over to you to begin.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everybody. After the departure of the Brahman's wives, Sri Govinda and his cowherd boyfriends enjoyed the food that had been offered in this way, though ever joyful. Personality of God had exhibited his transcendental pastimes in the guise of an ordinary human being in order to attract the common people to Krishna consciousness. With his words and beauty, he attracted all the cows, cowherd boys, and damsels in Vrindavan. All of them together enjoyed the pastimes of the Lord.
Right, so this is just summarizing the pastime, yeah, because the Brahmana's wives, as we know from the previous weeks, they delivered the prasadam to Krishna and the Gopas, whereas the Brahmanas themselves, they actually just ignored Krishna completely on his request for some food at the time of the yajna, when food is supposed to be offered to guests. So Krishna, as we know, is acting like an ordinary boy, said here, isn't it? Because actually he didn't need to beg for food. He's a Supreme Lord. He didn't need to. He's got a spiritual body. All his associates have spiritual bodies. But still, for the sake of performing a pastime, for their enjoyment, they went to beg. Yeah. And what lessons did we learn from Krishna sending the Gopas to beg? Anyone remember? Because this pastime is also very instructive for us as well. What lessons could we learn? If you don't remember, what kind of lessons could we learn?
Just to follow the instruction of Krishna, never bother about the results, whether it's favorable.
The sound is not so clear, Mataji.
Just to follow the instruction of Krishna, never bother about the results, whether it's favorable or not favorable. Similar way we could take it for spreading our Krishna consciousness, just to do our duty to spread the glories about the Lord, no matter whether the people accept it or not.
Yeah. Wow, some really amazing points you've summarized there, Mataji. I think you've added some even that we didn't discuss. Very nice. Some own realizations also. Yeah, so we've learned so much actually from the Krishna sending his friends for Madhukari. It's called Madhukari when they go to beg. Huh? And Madhukari is actually the business of sadhus. It's the business of saintly people, of devotees. And so for this reason, because we don't become attached to getting things our way, We depend on the mercy of Krishna, and Krishna, of course, always provides. So, like, this was their enjoyment actually, because they're always in the shelter of Krishna. They're always enjoying. Okay.
Also, by begging for Krishna, it makes you being humble.
Yeah, that's right. We have to develop that quality of being humble or humility. Why do we have to be humble, Prabhu?
Because if you do that with big headed, you can't do the job. You can't serve the Krishna.
We can't serve Krishna if you've got a big head. That's very different from in material life, isn't it? Like outside of devotee circles, people who push their way through, they get what they want, isn't it?
Yeah.
So why, how is it different for devotees? Or, if we are like that, if we're very humble and we are in an environment where people are very pushy, then how would that work, Prabhu? How would it help us? Someone may argue that way. So if we are being very humble, but people around us in the day-to-day business or different dealings with people, if we take a humble position, how will it help us? How will it help us progress? Or that open question.
I think it would help us progress, and I've had an experience. Humility doesn't mean that you should really humility means that you I know Buddha Bhavana Prabhu really explains it nicely, but I can't remember exactly how, but humility means that you should be humble in a way, not putting yourself down, but humble in a way to get the pride out. And in a working place, it does affect quite well, because you see, people don't see this sort of humility and good qualities in most of the people. So when they see it, I think others get attracted by the quality. So yeah, I think it's a good quality to try to focus on. It does help in everyday life as well, because if you are humble, it helps your spiritual life as well as your non-spiritual friends, because they get attracted to the quality.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Does anyone else want to add anything from experience or from what you've read? So humility is an attractive quality. It's an endearing quality. Whereas pride is like, this person's like pushing their way around. All right, I got to do what they say. So even though you may get what you want by being pushy and proud, it won't actually endear people to you. Prabhupada says in one place, there's two ways of controlling others. One is by force and one is by humility. You can actually win the hearts of people with humility also. So it's actually very powerful. Another thought I had on humility, actually, I'll just see if anyone else wants to add anything.
Well,
Anyone else want to?
Well, book distribution is very similar, isn't it? If you do book distribution with humility, then you can please Krishna. Also, you achieve something, book distribution. But if you try to force someone, then someone will think that, oh, why you are forcing me?
Yeah. Yeah, I have some experience with book distribution as well. That in book distribution, because you're doing the same service, is to share Krishna knowledge with people, Krishna's teachings with people. But you can do it in a very forceful way that, I know best. Or you can make a simple presentation in a way that you're depending on Krishna, that Krishna will help you. You want Krishna to help you. And actually that's a more truthful position to be in, that, Krishna, I'm not able to do so much of this myself, but by your mercy I'll be able to do more than what I could even do myself. And we see that with book distribution. When the results come, we hear the scores in the book distribution marathon every year. Such and such done 1,000 books, such and such 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, and on and on. So this is like, we hear about this, and it's actually miraculous. Every year there's miracles
Yeah.
in the devotees who do book distribution because of this empowerment, which comes from humility. That I'm not depending on myself, my strength. I'm depending on Krishna, Krishna's strength, and that's how we get empowered. And people take the books because of that. So we can apply that in all
Yeah,
aspects of life. Actually, we
yeah,
can be empowered in all areas of life.
because once you think, oh, I'm doing it, that means you becoming controller.
Yeah. Once you think I'm very great at this, then all of a sudden the next year no scores in distributing books or anything for that matter, right? Even in the corporate world, they say, the faster they climb, the harder they fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because you may get your way, but then if you don't have the appreciation of those around you, then you'll find you're no longer wanted. So humility is very endearing quality. All right. So let's continue then. Prabhuji, if you like to.
After the return of their wives from Krishna, the Brahmins, engaged in the performance of sacrifice, began to regret their sinful activities in refusing food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They could finally understand their mistake. Engaged in the performance of Vedic rituals, they had neglected the Supreme Personality of God, who had appeared just like an ordinary human being and asked for some food. They began to condemn themselves after seeing the faith and devotion of their wives. They regretted very much that although their wives were elevated to the platform of pure devotional service, they themselves could not understand even a little bit of how to love and offer transcendental loving service to the Supreme Soul. They began to talk among themselves. To hell with our being born Brahmanas, to hell with our learning all the Vedic literature, to hell with our performing great sacrifices and observing all the rules and regulations, to hell with our family, to hell with our expert service in performing the rituals exactly according to the description of the scriptures, to hell with it all, for all we have not developed transcendental loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the speculation of the mind, body, and sense.
So this is a turning point in the story now. Yeah. So what is this paragraph describing?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this paragraph is describing the fact that the Brahmanas are now, I've forgotten the word, oh God, they're now regretting the way they, initially, the way they treated, said no to to give food to the Supreme Lord.
That's right. Yeah. So now they're feeling regretful, or they're kind of remorse. Yeah. Anything else you can say? So they're actually condemning themselves as well. What does it mean to condemn? So one thing was they were not just regretful that I actually did the wrong thing. I really regret. I wish I didn't do that. So they were not feeling sorry, only sorry for themselves. There was so much as condemning themselves. So they were going even further. And how is that?
I think they were humbling themselves as well at the same time, because the pride was melting, because they had that pride of Brahminical qualities of knowing all these Vedas. That doesn't bring you to the highest position of loving Krishna and having pure devotional service, which their wives had. So previously they were proud that they were better than their wives and better than everything else. But now, knowing that their wives were at a higher level of devotional service, they were condemning themselves.
Yeah, they're condemning themselves because they've had this realization that their pride has been smashed. Their hearts have become softened. Yeah. So they're making some very strong statements here, aren't they? Right. So when we're reading it, it's actually, it can be, if you see, like I saw a drama once by the Bhaktivedanta players in this pastime, and it's really like, to hell with this, to hell with this, shouting, shouting. They've done all of this hard work, all these big sacrifices, everything was done perfectly, but it was all a complete waste of time. Huh? So the very person they were offering sacrifices to has personally come to them just to beg the food, just to beg the prasadam. Huh? And they refused. They actually didn't even refuse, but they completely ignored the person, Krishna, who came to ask them for food.
Papa is finished now.
Okay, mommy, see you.
Mommy, it's finished.
So this is an interesting thing, because in the previous times, actually, I think what we'll continue reading, and then I'll come on to this point. Okay. Yeah, if you want to continue.
The learned Brahmins, except in Vedic ritualistic performances, were probably regretful, because if one does not develop Krishna consciousness, all discharge of religious duties is simply waste of time and energy. They continue to talk among themselves. The external energy of Krishna is so strong that it can create illusion to overcome even the greatest mystic yogi. Although we expert Brahmanas are considered to be the teachers of all other sections of human society, and we also have been illusioned by the external energy. Just see how fortunate these women are. They have so dedicated their lives to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, that they could easily do what is ordinary so difficult. They gave up their family connections, which are just like a dark well, for the continuation of material business. Women in general, being very simple at heart, can very easily take to Krishna consciousness. And when they develop love for Krishna, they can easily get liberation from the clutches of Maya, which are very difficult for even so-called intelligent and learned men to surpass.
Okay, so which points do you see in this section we've read now? So here they're not only regretful, but they're giving appreciation to their wives as well now, right? Everyone looks very still. I'm wondering if my sound is working.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Brahmanas are appreciating and feeling how uh, fortunate their wives are, and how they are devoted. They can devotion to Krishna. They can just leave everything. So their hearts is so simple, and that so yeah can really easily get take Krishna consciousness. For they got more realization than Brahmin, that Krishna is everything to follow, and they would run for that. So she could, they didn't worry about that. The Brahmanas were really taking care of them. So to please Krishna, they would break all the relationship, all the ties with anybody.
Mm.
Will their focus and their trust in Krishna. This will show.
Yeah, I like that sentence which you picked out, Mataji, at the beginning of what you said. Is the only sentence I think in there with exclamation mark on it. Huh? Just see how fortunate these women are, they're saying about their wives. Huh? So they're really appreciating their wives here. As Mataji explained the reasons why. Because their Krishna consciousness, the wives, had such strong Krishna consciousness that they could, remove themselves from their family duties and go after Krishna, which is as it's explained here. It's which is ordinarily so difficult to do. They could do it so easily. Then Prabhupada adds some commentary here at the end of the paragraph. I'd say after the after quoting the Brahmanas,
Women in general is very simple enough. And well up for Krishna, they can easily get liberation from the clutches of Maya.
yes.
So very for even so.
So this is a really important point at scriptures. There's sometimes the intelligence of men, and sometimes there's a focus on there isn't really an emphasis on the good qualities of women. Let's put it that way. There isn't often emphasized the good qualities of women. Yeah, and so sometimes this causes confusion or disheartens some of us, right? But unless we understand the scriptures in a complete context, then we don't get the full picture of actually what our teachings really are, what they really are. And the reason for that is because see, men and women, according to Vedic understanding, are different. Despite what men have a certain type of body, a certain men have is also different in men and women in a certain way. That's a given that Krishna is teaching us this is feminine nature and this is masculine nature. Now, of course, these days the lines are very much blurred in terms of what's considered masculine, what's considered feminine, and perhaps it's not even appreciated so much. The feminine qualities and masculine qualities, right? In the modern world, what are we seeing in today's world, right? So much of protests and all kinds of problems, because of the misunderstanding, misapplication of masculine, feminine nature, isn't it? So we can learn from here. This is significant because Prabhupada is saying that the femininity in nature is simple at heart. So this is actually a shining quality of womanhood, simplicity, because it has value that even the masculine nature doesn't have. Masculine nature so is opposite of that. So that means that masculine nature is complex. Or in other words, over intellectualizing, over analyzing, whereas the women or the feminine nature is simple at heart, and that has its strengths also. And actually, in this pastime, and we see in many pastimes Krishna has to curtail and cut down the pride of the male ego, right? So what other pastimes can we relate to where this happens? Where Krishna cuts down male ego.
The Nagapatnis and dancing of the Kalia.
Yeah, that's the one I thought of too. So there was a similar situation, wasn't it? Does anyone remember that pastime? Anyone else? Kalia snake? The wives of the Kalia snake?
When
So
Kalia
the
had
Kalia snake,
when Kalia had the pride in him, he was really proud of himself, and he was living in one of the lakes near in Yamuna, and because of his pride and because of his arrogance, and the reason he got this arrogance was because he knew that he was safe in that lake. The only person would kill him was Garuda, and that sacred that lake, Garuda was not allowed to come because of a curse. So he seemed himself very safe, and this brought a lot of pride into him. And because of this pride and envy, all the vapors of his poison was killing everything surrounding him. And I think Krishna wanted to teach him a lesson. So once he went to that part of Yamuna River, and Krishna jumped up onto that tree, and that tree is still there even after 5,000 years. It is hollow, but you can go and visit that place near Yamuna Ghat, and it's a beautiful place. So he jumped out of that tree and pulled Kalia out, and even then Kalia was very, very proud and envious. So Krishna had to succumb his pride by jumping on his hoods and dancing. It took quite a while to get his pride down. Even when Krishna was dancing, he didn't recognize Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas Kalia's wife recognized that. And they were devotees of Krishna. And initially they wanted him to be killed because of his arrogance and pride. But as soon as he started becoming humble and losing his pride, that's when the Nagapatnis prayed for their husband to be saved. And until then, Krishna was dancing on him, and when he heard the prayers. So I think when prayers are said on behalf of somebody, they're more effective, and especially coming from the devotees for any reason. So Krishna did listen to the prayers of Nagapatnis, and he did let off go the Kalya Nag, who became humble, and he eventually became devotee of Krishna.
Yeah, so we can see that in this pastime of the Kalia and his snake wives. The snake wives, they appeal to Krishna in humility, and the Kalia snake, he fought with Krishna out of envy. So envy and humility, yeah. But it was actually the humility of the wives that conquered Krishna's heart. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
I'm sorry
Krishna.
to bother you. I'm just going to leave on this. I'm just going to open another, come back on again. So will you let me in again, please?
Yeah, that's yeah. Amu Mataji will be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
We'll find this is the recurring theme. The simplicity of the feminine nature can get very far in spiritual life and spiritual consciousness. Prabhupada says, simple living, high thinking. Yeah? So this is our Krishna conscious philosophy. Simple living, high thinking.
But in this Kali Yuga, it's the other way around.
In which way, Prabhu?
In this Kali Yuga, it's other way around. People
People are
high living,
yeah.
and simple thinking.
That's right. High living, people aiming for high living.
Yeah.
When it comes to understanding what it's all for, what the purpose of living, what the purpose of life is for, it's very simple thinking. The big picture thinking is very simple. Yeah. So this simple living is particularly prominent in feminine nature, and high thinking is particularly prominent in masculine nature. So both is required, and both is appreciated in their own ways. So this Vedic teaching is actually good for everybody. Maybe we can have the next reader, Shashi Mataji.
I'd like to add something from what
Sure.
we read.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, Brahmanas were underestimating external energy of Krishna. So they learned that the external energy of Krishna is so strong.
Yeah, that's right. The external energy of Krishna is so strong that it can create illusion to overcome even the greatest mystic yogi.
Yeah.
So who's considered the greatest mystic yogi? One of the greatest mystic yogis that Krishna deluded. Anyone guess?
One of the
Pastime of some.
Is it in one of the pastimes?
Sorry? Pastime. One of the greatest mystic personalities who is bewildered by Krishna.
No, from
Yes,
Brahma, isn't it?
that's right. So Brahma has no shortage of mystic power, huh? He could snatch the boys away from Krishna and keep them hidden in a mystic location. Remember that pastime, everyone? Who remembers the pastime of the Brahma Vimohan Leela? Krishna. I can't see most of us, so I'm assuming some of you got hand up. Shamrani, Mataji got it. Yeah. Yeah. So this is again they're having that same realization. You see. Thank you for pointing that out, Prabhu. Okay. So Shashi Mataji, would you be able to read with us today?
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, are we starting the paragraph, the Brahmanas continued?
Yes, please.
Conjunction, yeah? Right, okay.
That's
I just lost my space for a bit.
It's okay.
The Brahmanas continued. According to the Vedic injunction, women are not allowed to undergo the purificatory process of initiation by the sacred thread, nor are they allowed to live as Brahmacharinis.
Brahmacharini, yeah.
Thank you. In the Daskama of the spiritual master, nor are they advised to undergo the strict disciplinary procedures, nor are they very expert in discussing the philosophy of self-realization. And by nature, they are not very pure, nor are they very much attached to auspicious activities. Therefore, how wonderful it is that these women have developed transcendental love for Krishna, the Lord of all mystic yogis. They have surpassed all of us in firm faith and devotion unto Krishna. Although we are considered to be masters in all purificatory processes, we did not actually know that their goal is because we are too much attached to the materialistic way of life. Even though we are reminded of Krishna and Balaram by the cowherd boys, we disregarded them. We now think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply played a trick of mercy on us by sending his friends to beg food from us. Otherwise, he had no need to send them. He could have satisfied their hunger when and then and there, just by willing to do so.
Yes, thank you. So, the Brahmanas are giving their opinion here, based on different Vedic injunctions. So, in the bygone ages, the culture was that it was really men that went to school and had to develop their understanding of the Vedas and learn what their duties were in life in those previous times. Had to understand what was their nature and their activities, what type of work they were suited to do. Yeah. And in the modern day, of course, this education is available for everybody. Yeah. So what that meant was that in former times, women had a much simpler lifestyle. They would simply go from being taken care of by their father to then being taken care of by their husband, and after their husband's departure, if they had a son, then to be taken care of by the son. So that was the culture at the time, and so there wasn't really much need for the women to undergo all these disciplines of life. So that's what's being mentioned here. Okay. And so that actually allows that simplicity to develop. Whereas if the men don't undergo that type of cultural training, that discipline, then we have the problems what we see in the world today. Yeah. So untrained man is just like a boy, huh? Just like a big boy with big toys, causing all kinds of problems. Yeah. So this is the difference between the nature of men and women. Okay. So that again, that simplicity has to be developed in women, and the proper intelligence has to be developed in men, according to the Vedic culture. Any thoughts or comments, questions?
Also because of simplicity, they were keeping healthy as well.
Yes. Okay. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Prabhu? Can you say some more?
Because of simplicity, they had a less. They had no technology thing.
Because of simplicity, they were more healthy.
Yeah,
right.
more healthy. So that was affecting the body and brain, mind, and
Yeah, you see, I think in the modern day we see that, it's very difficult for women. At least I can speak on behalf of women that I know, or my wife and others, family members. To go from working life to have a career, then to taking care of children is a big shift. To develop all the skills that's required for a mother, and then go back to working world again, and then trying to raise a child part-time is really draining, and so that's not considered to be so simple, right? That kind of lifestyle. So because of that certain type of body that women have, they have the facility to raise children, to bring up a child in the womb and give birth to a child and raise a child on her milk. So having that simple lifestyle, is more healthy for those in a female body.
So, because before according to Vedic injunctions, the lifestyle was like men should go out and walk, and women should just stay home. So they didn't have
Okay.
to go through
As a
anything.
housewife.
They just do their housework, look after children, and that whole housework was, there wasn't any like any technology, washing machines, anything else. They had to do it all by hand. They couldn't get ready-made what's called lentils and all that. They all had to do it at home with taking their. So they got their exercise that way, and they were so busy with that.
Mm.
So they didn't have time to
Right.
develop themselves. But now in this modern world, ladies have developed themselves, and they started standing up on their legs, foot. They have to do that. There's so much consciousness. The men are not what they were before, because they used to know their responsibility.
Mm.
And that's why the responsibility from husband was transferred to the son when he retires. But now you can't retire because it's not poor women have got and the working life and that. What women can do, men hasn't got that strength.
Right.
So
Yeah. Okay.
but yeah, that's how that's why it was told that they didn't have all that. But now women do have that equality.
Mm.
More.
Yeah, you touched on a point that I wanted to discuss a little bit more about. Is that see that women don't, that men, that they also don't have that understanding of responsibility. So if we look at it from the other point of view now, the point of view of men, men are not really trained in what they're good at. So intelligence means to understand what you can and can't do. What's the right and wrong thing for you? So men are not trained in that way. That's why we see so many people, they go through career changes, they're moving on one career path to another, before you know it, they've got grey hair. So, no hair at all in many cases. Yeah. And so, this is, so like you come out of college, university, or whatever, and then you have to kind of figure it all out yourself anyway, That's kind of, so what was the use of all those years of education? So the Vedic culture was very different in that the education was very tailored and very unique to the individual. So that's just something from the masculine side of things. Okay, does anyone else like to comment or question? I thought I saw a hand go up,
I
I'm
just
not
had
sure.
I just had one
Yeah?
comment. Talking about men and masculinity, it's I mean, in the Vedic culture, mainly the men had their own thing. Like if they were cobbler, or if they were a tailor, or if whatever they were, they used to pass their skills to their sons, and it carried on like that. So the sons didn't really have to figure out what to do because they'd seen their father doing it. So it was much more simpler life. There was no ambition in there. So like the wives used to take care of the house, and the girls and the daughter-in-laws used to learn from and it was like a combined family, so they would learn from each other. So there was none of the stress of learning all these things. So if you look at a really proper Indian culture where there was combined families and everything, and where they lived together, the skills were passed to each other. And I think most of the times uh, the sons used to take over the career of their fathers and carried on like that because
Yeah.
they'd learned the skill from the beginning. So I think that was a different. But now the pressure in this technology is that, the technology is hyping and hyping, and the children has to learn to keep um, the men and the ladies, both of them have to learn more and more skills to keep up with this technology, which is really like changing a lot. If you don't keep up, you can't get the jobs, and you can't, you can't survive in these Western countries, so as to speak of.
So I just want to pick up on 2 points you made. So one is people are not so ambitious. That's an interesting point. You said they're not so ambitious. So these days, this is kind of the argument from the other side, like if you're just told what to do, and you just kind of, if your dad's a tailor, you become a tailor. If your dad's a carpenter, you become a carpenter. There's no ambition, right? That's boring. But again, it comes back to that point of simple living, high thinking. They had higher goals than just, career and. So this is something which is actually lost. Of course, these things can be argued both ways. Yeah. But at least from the Vedic perspective, the high thinking is the important thing. That we have to understand what is the goal of life. Where do we get that time and that energy, and the freedom to actually explore what is my relationship with Krishna? How am I going to make the most of my human life? In the modern day, that time and that energy, that facility is just not there, isn't it? So much time goes into taking care of the body and the mind, and obviously everything connected to that family and so on and so forth. Okay. So unless there's any other comments or questions, we can move on.
In those
Small short comment, Prabhuji. Sorry, I interrupted, Prabhu. Go ahead. Is the other Prabhu saying something?
No, carry on.
Yes, bro.
Just a very, very quick comment. I thought the phrase "trick of mercy" quite interesting. That it's mercy, but Krishna does a trick, plays a trick whilst giving mercy. So
That's mentioned here, is it? Is that mentioned in what we read today, or just generally you're saying? I might have missed it. You're on mute at the moment, so I'm not able to hear you.
sorry. Yeah, I thought I read that in that paragraph. Let's go back.
Yeah, it's in the. Oh, I think
Okay.
that's
Yeah. Oh, yeah, near the end, isn't it?
well.
So what does it say?
Oh, yeah.
We now think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply played a trick of mercy on us by sending his friends to beg food from us. Otherwise, he had no need to send them. Okay, so what were you saying about that point?
I just thought, the fact that it's not just plain mercy, but it's attaching the word trick to the word mercy.
Right.
That is quite interesting, isn't it? That Krishna, even whilst giving mercy, he can be very playful. He can test us, or he can shower us with mercy, or he can test us with his mercy. And that's where he plays the trick.
That's right. If you think you're very intelligent, Krishna will show you he's more intelligent. If you think you're very strong, Krishna will show you he's more strong. If you think you're very opulent, Krishna will show you he's so much more opulent. So whatever it takes, Krishna plays tricks. But the end result is always mercy. Yeah.
Sorry, I think I interrupted the other Prabhu, Sachinanda. No,
Oh, yes.
I interrupted.
Satyanarayan Prabhu?
Yes, I was just going to add a little bit on Indian culture, what we were talking about.
Okay.
For example, if father was in debt when he's leaving the body, or well, after leaves his body, son takes responsibility to pay off his debt.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not like that wasn't my problem. I didn't do anything wrong. It was my father.
How does that work now then? I'm not familiar with that. How would that work now?
Well, nowadays they just sons are just they just escape from that.
But that debt has to be paid by someone, right?
Yeah,
Or not?
there may be few people. I'm not saying all of them.
Okay.
It's like recently, about 6 months ago, I experienced. I lended 10 lakhs rupees to one of my friend, a university friend. Well, we always shared the room and we were studying together and, like brothers. And
Mm.
about 6 months ago, he had a stroke and within few days he passed away. So his son,
Oh,
so his son rang me to let me know what has happened,
yeah.
right? So he told me that, and just after that, you know what he said? I know my father owes you money, so I take responsibility of it.
That's a
Wow.
good culture.
So very honorable, huh?
But
Yeah.
if you want
Mm.
it, I'll give you straight away.
So I told him, don't worry about that.
He didn't even lift the body.
Yeah. At that time, his father was very ill actually, and he was just about to leave body actually. He hadn't left the
Right.
body, and he told me this. So I said, that's
Yeah.
your first responsibility.
Wow. Yeah, that really brings it to life, that story, huh? What do you all think?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Even after that, couple of times he reminded me after his father left the body.
Mm.
Actually, what happened then? Corona started, coronavirus,
Yeah.
and they're running the business, but business so many times closed, open, and not doing well. Like they lost about 60%
Mm.
business, like others.
Don't worry.
Mm.
So I just said, don't worry about it. Don't talk about it at the moment. You just look
Yeah,
after your family. You try your best. And anything I can do, let me know.
that's amazing. See, imagine if the world had so many people like Satyanarayan Prabhu. Wouldn't it be such a wonderful place? I think so. Prabhu, if you wouldn't mind, if you bring your camera down a little bit, we're really not able to see you much. Or maybe it's just my screen. Yeah, that's helpful. See. There were more people like you both in the world, this would be a happy place.
I second that, Prabhu, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Now, let's move on to our next reader. Thank you, everyone, for having a nice discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Hare Krishna. So, I've lost it now.
So,
Oh
if
yeah,
someone
got it.
denies
Someone
Krishna,
denies. Hare Krishna. If someone denies the self-sufficiency of Krishna on hearing that he was tending the cows for his livelihood, or if someone doubts his not being in need of the food, thinking that he was actually hungry, then such a person should understand that the goddess of fortune is always engaged in his service. In this way, the goddess can break his faulty habit of restlessness.
her faulty habit.
Her faulty habit of restlessness.
Mhm.
In Vedic literatures like the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that Krishna is served in his abode with great respect by not one goddess of fortune, but many thousands. Therefore, it is simply illusion for one to think that Krishna begged food from the Brahmanas. It was actually a trick to show them mercy by teaching them that they should accept him in pure devotional service instead of engaging in ritualistic ceremonies. The Vedic ceremonial paraphernalia, the suitable place, the suitable time, the different grades of articles of performing the ritualistic ceremonies, the Vedic hymns, the process of sacrifice, the priest who is able to perform the sacrifice, the fire, the demigods, the performer of the sacrifice, and the religious principles are all meant for understanding Krishna. For Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is the supreme Lord Vishnu and the Lord of all mystic yogis. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So here, personally, I had to read this a few times before I really understood what it was being said. So maybe I can share what I understood, and then you can correct me. I'm sure you know more than I do. I had to go into the Srimad Bhagavatam to see what was being said here in this first part of the paragraph. So what I understood was that these Brahmanas, they doubted Krishna because when he came to ask for food, they thought, why should God need food? If he's God, if he's self-sufficient, why would he need food? Okay. Because if he's God, then if he's hungry, then his hunger is stronger than him. That means he cannot be God. But at the same time, they misunderstood that Krishna has personalities. Personality, his desires, are part of his personality, his attributes. He has a supreme personality. So in fact, his hunger is based on his desire. If he desires to be hungry, then we should feed him. So that's simple, isn't it? So the Brahmana Patnis, they got it. Krishna wants to eat, we'll feed him. Simple, right? Whereas they were intellectualizing. So it's mentioned here that in the Vedic literatures it said that the goddess of fortune, she is very eager to serve Krishna. Yeah, Lakshmi Devi, the wife of Vishnu, she's very eager to serve Krishna or Vishnu, even though he doesn't need her service. He is self-sufficient. It's a fact. And everybody wants everyone wants fortune. It's a fact. Everybody wants wealth and opulence and fortune and good luck, which comes from Lakshmi. But she who has got so much good fortune, she wants to serve God. She wants to serve Vishnu. Yeah. So we can understand that because they're so eager to serve, even though they have all opulences. The goddess of fortune are so eager to serve Krishna, even though he has no desire. This is his great position. This is the great position of Krishna. So this is what their understanding was now, the Brahmanas. And even though they had used all of their paraphernalia, all their things at their disposal to understand Krishna, still they couldn't understand him. They couldn't understand Krishna without his own mercy. Yeah. So it's actually required the mercy of a devotee or the mercy of Krishna to be able to understand him. So in light of that, we are very fortunate because Srila Prabhupada has showered so much mercy on us. Prabhupada has told us so straightforwardly who is Krishna, what is his activities, and how we can relate to him. These are so important things. Prabhupada has very straightforwardly told us. Otherwise, like all these Brahmanas, we may have to go searching through so many literatures, and performing so many of these difficult ceremonial activities without really having a clue for who or for what and why. So just my personal reflection on that as well. Does anyone else like to share thought or comment?
Krishna Bro. It's Krishna doesn't need anything, but because everything belongs to him. But getting hungry, or he's saying that it's just to fulfill the desires of his devotee.
Yeah, that's a nice
To,
point. So yeah, Krishna doesn't need anything. Even when he desires to be hungry, it's not because he only wants to taste food, because the boys were hungry. Huh? So if we remember to the beginning of the pastime, it was the boys who asked, isn't it? Krishna, we are hungry. So Krishna agreed, okay, I'm also hungry. And therefore the pastime unfolded. Yes, thank you, Mataji, for reminding us the important point.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I like to say something about this. It's the end of the paragraph. Where is that? Yeah. The performer of the sacrifice and the religious principles are all meant for understanding Krishna.
Hmm.
So how I understand that, all these Krishna's pastimes performed, and this is that is the learning and you call it what the word? Okay, for learning and practicing process of for living entities.
Yes.
But whether it's a plus or minus, whether he kills someone or he saves someone, doesn't matter.
Could you elaborate a little more, just so that it's a bit more clear?
Well, basically, Krishna is a well-wisher for everyone. He's a friend of everyone.
Okay.
So he never try to destroy anybody. And if he does, there is always a good reason behind it.
Yes. Okay, now I understand.
Yeah, and at the same time, as I said, from all his pastimes, he's always by his teaching practice, he always try to correct living entity and make them realize.
So this is a very difficult thing to be able to understand. That everything is Krishna's mercy.
Yeah.
Someone who can think like that, they're very fortunate. Huh?
Yeah.
So it's one thing having knowledge, having knowledge, just, I know this pastime, I know that story, I know it happened in this order, I know all the details of everything, I know philosophy, I can explain karma, jnana, I can explain Ashtanga, whatever it may be, very well. That's knowledge, that's one thing. But to put it into practice, huh? So there's what's called knowledge, and there's what's called realization. In our teachings, there's more emphasis on actually realizing the knowledge. Huh? What's the word for that? Realizing is vijnana. So in our teachings, there's this idea that there's knowledge, which is jnana, but more important than jnana is vijnana. Actually knowing what to do with all that knowledge. Someone may be very scholarly. Prabhupada often condemns just being very knowledgeable. It's not so important. You can be knowledgeable, but you have to know what to do with that knowledge. That's more important. So even if you have little knowledge, but you know what to do, what is the goal of that little bit of knowledge, that's more important than having masses and masses of information, but just living a very meager life.
Yeah, it's like I have heard from one of the lectures that human life begins when you think for knowing for Krishna. No, I mean knowing Krishna. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's also very much in this pastime, isn't it, Prabhu? That the Brahmanas' wives, they were just assisting their husbands in the sacrifices, but when it came to knowing the purpose of it, they understood very clearly. But the Brahmanas, they were too much involved in all of the aspects of knowledge and the technicalities, and they forgot, like, what am I doing all this for anyway? So this is the point. The performer of the sacrifice and the religious principle are all meant for understanding Krishna.
It's how you define knowledge, isn't it? Knowledge to one person may be different to what the Vedic scriptures teaches us what knowledge is. So knowledge is to find out more about Krishna, to know Krishna, or to love, be able to acquire information to be able to love Krishna and develop bhakti towards Krishna.
Yeah.
Whereas knowledge nowadays, or knowledge or any other kind of knowledge, is subjective, isn't it? It's a word which is very, very subjective, especially in Kali.
Yeah, there's different terms we could use. So another way of putting it may be like, just having lots and lots of information is not as useful as having wisdom. Terms it in different ways in different places. Does that make more sense? Like, having wisdom is better than just having information. Yeah. You could have a lot of information about how everything works in your kitchen, right? But if you have wisdom in cooking, then even with very few facilities in the kitchen, you can make a really snappy meal. Yeah.
I like to
Akshana
share
Mataji would like to make a comment.
Yeah, it's like Brahmana Patni. They didn't have knowledge. They didn't have Vedic knowledge or anything. When Brahmana had it, but then Brahmana Patni, approached to Krishna and giving food to them. When Brahmana reluctant to that, so it's not necessarily we have to have knowledge. It's all about loving Krishna in simple way.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes sense.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you.
Also, something else came to my. Thank you, Mataji. Something else came to my mind. It's also it can all be about Krishna, but it could also be difference in personalization. For example, the knowledge of Uddhava against the knowledge of the gopis. Uddhava's was very scholarly knowledge of Krishna, wasn't it? Whereas the gopis was more personal knowledge of Krishna. So again, it is in degrees, or in I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So Krishna, he had to explain. So even though Uddhava, he had the greatest teacher in the universe. His teacher was Brihaspati. Yeah. So Uddhava was considered very knowledgeable. Yeah. But he couldn't understand the gopis at all. Right. He couldn't understand the gopis at all, and the gopis were not students of Brihaspati. That's for sure. They were simple cowherd girls. But Uddhava just simply couldn't understand them. Huh? So there was something which he couldn't understand. That was the depth of their love. Yeah. So their love it goes beyond knowledge. Their love was beyond that. Yeah.
Just
And
wanted
therefore
to add
Krishna
one more.
he spoke the Uddhava Gita. So that actually discusses bhakti, which is higher than. So this is why bhakti yoga is greater than Gyan yoga. Because with Gyan, with just information, you can't understand bhakti.
I just wanted to add one more
Okay.
to this. It's just pastime of Lord Chaitanya, like just slightly relating to this pastime that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was really a scholar, a was so proud of his scholarship that he used to go around all towns and villages with his flag on and his himself sitting on an elephant, saying that, you know, I am the best scholar. And how say played a trick on him to bring him down. Because he had this knowledge, he was able to, if he just kind of got rid of that pride and understood the knowledge as a wisdom, he would be able to serve the population better. So I think Krishna sometimes does play a trick on us to bring us down to the level of, you know, where we can, you know, use our the skills. Same with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He thought he knew a lot. Days listening to everything, and how he brought his pride down to make him understand what real knowledge was. Mercy on both of them, the same way this mercy was given to the Brahmanas, because, you know, without Krishna's mercy, we cannot come to that level of loving and having that knowledge, wisdom of how bhakti is better than Gyan Yoga, and how we can attain through bhakti Krishna rather than Jnana and Karma, the other yogic procedures. So there's sometimes it's nice when Krishna plays tricks on us. Krishna is really great to have, because, you know, the taste is better. You know, if you have the bhakti, it's just more personal. It's more personal than having the knowledge. It's more opulence.
Yeah, it's a really good connection there to the Chaitanya Leela, where we see this happen time and again. Like the example of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He was actually the head priest of the Jagannath temple, and he was like Gyani, you know, he was really into this like philosophical debate and this kind of thing. Yeah. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeated him by humility, because he sat and heard him for 7 days without asking any questions. And then he said, I understand everything about the Vedanta Sutra. I just simply don't understand your explanations of them. On the other hand, actually just reminded me of a different incident in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he spoke to Ramananda Rai later on, then he actually took the position of becoming Ramananda Rai's student. And Ramananda Rai, he was just an employee in the government, right? He was just a governor. Yeah. So he wasn't like a scholar or anything like known. He wasn't a Brahminical, you know, he didn't know all these rituals and yagyas and things. But he was just like a government official. So, but he knew Krishna Tattva very well. He understood Krishna very well. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, knowing this, he sat down and he asked questions constantly. Very opposite to what happened with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He was just so inquisitive. He wanted to know more and more. He would ask him, what is the goal of life? Okay, tell me more. Okay, tell me deeper. Right up to the discussions going to very esoteric topics, you know. So there's a quote that Prabhupada sometimes mentions from the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. He says, Kibra Vipara Kibra Nasi Sudrake Nanai Jai Krishna Tattvavati Se Guru Hoy. So that means that it doesn't matter what your position is in society. You could be a Brahmin, or you could be a sannyasi, you could even be a Shudra, it doesn't matter. But if you know Krishna, then you are as good as Guru. So this is important, especially for those of us who may be thinking about finding a spiritual master. Or put it simply, Prabhupada said, how do you know who is Guru? Guru is one who is addicted to Krishna, who cannot stop talking about Krishna. Jai Guru Hoy. So he says that. Ye Krishna Tattva Veti Se Guru Hoy. That if someone is addicted to Krishna, that person is Guru. Doesn't matter externally who they are or how they are. But if they just love Krishna, because if you love someone, then that's what you would talk about, right? So then,
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, Prabhu, to keep you waiting.
That's all right. I like to share something how myself and my family got mercy of Krishna through Guru.
Yes, please.
When I met my Guru Maharaj first time, and he asked me quite a few questions, how old I was, what I was doing for my living, and what sort of bad habits I had. I explained everything. And then he said, look, all these years are wasted. Now, do you want to waste any more years? So I said, no. and then he didn't go in so much details like bad habits and this and that, but simply he said, if you don't want to waste any more of your years, then try to live for Krishna. That's all he said. That's all he said. Try to live, because that covers everything, isn't it? Lifestyle.
Simple solution.
Yeah, simple solution. And that hit me.
You can apply that in all type of situations, huh?
From there, I started to following his instructions.
Wow. I love hearing your different stories. You've got so much experience in Krishna consciousness.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Even he couldn't, because of the business and that, he couldn't quickly. I started somehow doing 16 rounds, but he couldn't do that. So once, just day before Rath Yatra, it was that we had a meeting at somebody's house, so we all were there. So then Guru Maharaj asked him, said, how many rounds you done today? He said, something 10 or?
I think 12.
10 or 12. He said, okay, now program is finished. Still a time to go to midnight, 12. So why don't we start together?
Oh, no. He said, go home and finish your rounds. Finish your 16 rounds. Right. So that's the instruction. So I did that. Okay. And how it's affected in the next day, because next day it was Rath Yatra. And at that time, Rath Yatra was, we were holding Rath Yatra in Battersea Park.
Oh, that was a long time ago,
It was more socialized, like with other devotees, we were sitting down and talking, and not preaching like preaching. We have Trafalgar Square.
Trafalgar Square, not like that.
So, okay, so we had some association with the other devotees for a while. And then I was sitting next to Madhvi, and I said, Madhvi, why don't we just keep out of this group, and finish our rounds today? Because remembering doing 16 rounds day before.
Yeah.
So we did that, and I said, oh, that's great. Right, next day morning, I had to go to the shop to run the shop, right? So I thought, today is my taste. If I want to continue 16 rounds, today is my taste. And then I started thinking how I do it. It was difficult to do in 16 rounds in one go. So I did some in the morning, some in the afternoon, taking little break and finishing.
Going to car and doing rounds, taking back from the shop. Then I'm coming to his partner, I'm coming in.
I told my partner, I'm feeling a little bit tired because I had a busy day yesterday, because of Rath Yatra and etc. So I just go to the car and I rest a little while and come back. So I went to the car, I finished my rounds. I did some rounds, sorry. and then went back to shop.
It came home, said, no, I don't want, you can get prepare for the dinner, and I'll just finish my rounds before I sit down for dinner, otherwise I'm going to go to sleep. So he did that. So it was amazing how.
So this is how I progress, you know. So I'm talking about Krishna's mercy through Guru.
Yeah. So we can all learn from your experience, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing that. So if anyone would like to, get a higher taste in Krishna consciousness, Prabhu has just given us a secret here. Try and increase your rounds. Try and come up to 16 rounds. We'll try and increase in some way, somehow, with some time that you have. Yeah.
If no one
Now
has
we're in lockdown, not for many more weeks, huh? So here's a good opportunity to use the next few weeks, isn't it? Before everything goes back to driving and everyone's out and about, try and use these weeks to see how you can chant more japa, build that into your daily routine.
if no one has question, I like to share something quick. Once I told my Guru Maharaj that if I put more hours in my business and I can earn more money and give it to the temple. And he said, no, that's not a good idea. What about your sadhana? Because he said, if you put more hours in your business, how are you going to finish your round? I struggle, but eventually I will finish. He said, no, not eventually. So the sadhana rather than earning more money. Yeah.
Very important.
On top of it, he said, try to do more rounds in the morning, open the shop half an hour late. So he wasn't getting trouble. He cut down his hours of opening.
He said, by opening shop half an hour late, you're not going to lose all your money or all your business, Don't worry.
Yeah. That's interesting because, when we look at the word sadhana, we say this word all the time, isn't it? Does anyone know what sadhana actually means? The meaning of the word? Sad is comprised of two words. Sad, dhana. So you may know dhana means wealth, isn't it?
Wealth.
And sat means eternal. So sadhana means eternal wealth.
Eternal wealth.
So it's very logical, isn't it? If someone says, don't spend all your time in all this temporary wealth, spend your time in sadhana, eternal wealth. Best way to use time. Okay. So we're just coming up to the end. Maybe we can finish one more paragraph. We're getting quite close to the end of this chapter now. But we've had some nice discussions. So I'm just thinking maybe we'll carry on this next week from these last two paragraphs, and we'll finish a couple of minutes earlier today, so we can do our japa. Yeah. On that note, just from the story of Satyanarayan Prabhu finishing his program early, if you have some more time afterwards, you can continue chanting. Why not? Okay. So I just haven't got my beads to hand. I'm going to run and get them. So I'm in a different room today. So, my camera stopped.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, could you please remind everyone about the Gauranga book reading on Thursday, Prabhu, please?
Oh, sure. Okay. Actually, I need to go and get my beads. If you wouldn't mind, you can say something about it, Mataji. You could share something rather than me trying to promote myself. Better hear it from someone who appreciates.
Hare Krishna. Madhavi Mataji, did you attend the class on Thursday, Mataji? Sorry, Saturday.
Yes, I did it on Saturday.
Then it would be better if you could say, you're the senior devotee here, Mataji. Who am I to talk about it?
No. We all are same. You are doing more work for us than I am doing anything. I'm just coming and joining the class every time.
No, I'm not doing anything, Mataji. You please inform the group about the class, Mataji. That would be good, actually.
Okay, all right. Yes, so. Hare Krishna, we recently, just for this 2 weeks, coming to God Purnima, Sachinan Prabhu has doing a really, is very merciful on us, try to be merciful on us to get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. We've been reading about Lord Chaitanya from the book by Jayapataka Maharaj. So we're doing from, is it from 7:30, isn't it? 7:30 to 9.
It's on Saturday and on Thursday
Oh,
at 7:30.
7:30 to 9. So please come, don't miss out.
Try to attend.
Good opportunity for us to know about Lord Chaitanya. We're doing for Lord Krishna's, learning about Lord Krishna, but side by side is really, I felt it was good to hear about Lord Chaitanya at the same time. He's so merciful.
Well, it's not only same time, but without Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we cannot approach Krishna. Let's put this way.
So we will have to thank Chaitanya Prabhu to.
And Lord Chaitanya is very merciful. So to approach Krishna, we have to work so hard. So we don't have to work so hard to approach Lord Chaitanya.
So we should get to know Lord Chaitanya if we want to have an easy Krishna consciousness. So everyone is invited. I'll send the details out again in the WhatsApp group, and if you'd like to join, you're most welcome. And on that note, I'd just like to add one more thing. We're offering a special deal for those who are interested to get the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Charitamrita is the life and teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's a series of books written by Srila Prabhupada. You can send some more information about that. There's a special offer at the moment given by BBT to us, to different Sangha groups, where you can get the whole set, which is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books. There's 9 books I can see from here. So you get this whole set of 9 books during this time, because Gaura Purnima, Lord Chaitanya's appearance day, is coming up. So I'll just tell you the price. Actually, I wasn't going to announce it, I forgot. But now that I've been reminded. Let's see. So as a Sangha group, we get a special deal. I'm trying to find it now. Maybe I should send the message after the meeting, which has got the information for if anyone wants that set for Chaitanya Charitamrita.
You can arrange the book, Gauranga?
Yeah, and the Gauranga book as well. I can arrange if anybody would like a copy, which is a condensed version of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Chaitanya Bhagavat, the Chaitanya Mangal, all in condensed form. So all the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in one book. Is one book like this thick. I can get that for £9, including the shipping, so the postage. That's also available during this time. So feel free to contact me after for those things. And yeah, that's the best way to get Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, to hear about him, to fall in love with him.
I think I'd like to have one, Prabhu. Please send me one.
Yeah, we can. If you just send me the message after, then we'll continue. We can, make the arrangements then with your address and whatnot. Okay. So okay, we've actually gone over a little bit now into our japa time. So let's. Yeah.